Hearthstone's new expansion, Perils in Paradise, is finally here. So in this video, I theory crafted 11 brand new decks, one for each class, ready for you to use on day one. Each deck in this video, I tried to make as unique as I could while using as many of the new cards from this expansion as possible, while still keeping them competitively viable. And each deck also features every class's new tourist card as well, which is this expansion's new mechanic, where it allows you to deck build with 2 different classes. So without further ado, let's hop into the first deck. Alright, so kicking things off here with our first deck, we have Mage with this Tempo Mage. So Mage got a Paladin tourist, and that's going to be Rayla Sand Sculptor. And what her effect does is when she's on the board, after you cast a spell, you get to summon a random 2-cost minion and give it Divine Shield. So to maximize her effect, we're going to be using a lot of really cheap spells with her to flood the board with a lot of Divine Shield minions. And we can use this by dipping into some Paladin cards from this expansion, like the Divine Brew, which is a 1-mana drink that has the 3 uses to give a minion Divine Shield, or if it already has Divine Shield, give it +1 attack. Or we can use the Life-Saving Aura, which gives us a sunscreen at the end of our turn for 3 turns, and it's a 1-mana spell that gives a minion +1/+2. And we can also get more of these sunscreens using the new Volumal Weapon, which is a 3-mana 3/2 weapon where whenever you attack, you get a sunscreen. And to help us get some of these spells back, we have a Rewind or the new Tide Pool Pupil, where if you've cast 3 spells while holding this, you're going to discover 1 of them to get back again. We can also get some more cheap spells with the Mixologist, where you're going to make a 1-cost potion, as well as the new Grifta, where you're going to discover a 1-cost amulet. And these amulets have some pretty powerful effects too, like they can deal 6 damage or heal 12. And to help us pop off with Rayla and our cheap spells even more, we're running the Concierge, where your spells from other classes cost 1 less. So all of our Paladin spells, including our 1-mana drinks and 1-mana sunscreens, are all free. So we can have some insane swing turns. And to make them even swingier, we are using the new Sea Shanty card, where you just summon 3 5/5 pirates, and it costs 1 less for every spell that you've cast on a character of this game, which is really easy to do with all of our drinks and sunscreens and potions. Yeah, this deck looks like I can set up some really aggressive swing turns, so I'm really excited for this one. Alright, our second deck up is going to be Hunter with this big Hunter. So Hunter got a Warrior Tourist, which means we get access to all of this expansion's Warrior cards. We're going to be taking advantage and going straight for the Ride Cleaver to build around, which is a new 7-mana 4/2 weapon. We get a Battle Cry and a Death Rattle to get a Slice of Bread. Any minions in your hand in between that first slice and the second slice when you get it gets sandwiched into a 2-cost spell that when you play it, summons all of those minions for free. So our big minions are going to be the new Beached Whale, which is a 7-mana beast, which is a 4/20 that deals 10 damage to itself on a Battle Cry. But if we summon it like from our hand or from our deck, we get to bypass that Battle Cry, so we get the full 4/20 stats. And then we're also running a new big Warrior Elemental, which is a 6/9 taunt at the end of your turn, summons a minion with stats equal to this. And we can summon them for free out of our deck as well using the Thunderbringer card. We can also summon minions out of our deck for free using the new Food Fight too, which summons a 0/6 minion for your opponent, and when you kill it, summons a minion from your deck for free. So there's just so many ways of summoning all these big beasts and all these big minions. And once they start dying, we can resurrect all of our beasts again using the Stranglethorn Heart. Alright, our next deck up is going to be this Linessa Combo Paladin deck. And just like the name suggests, this deck is all built around the Rogue Tourist for Paladin, Sunsapper Linessa. And what her effect does is all your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. So to maximize this effect, we can get a lot of coins in hand first, because coins also get doubled to give back double mana, using cards like Greedy Partner, or the new O-Manager card where it deals 2 damage and combo it to get a coin. And if you use it with Linessa, you get 2 coins back for 4 total mana. And we also have the new rogue weapon Metal Detector, where it's a 2/2 weapon. Every time you attack and kill a minion, you get a coin. So yeah, we can pretty much replenish all of our mana after Linessa, and then pop off with a bunch of damage and buffs, like the new Divine Brew drink spell, where it gives a minion Divine Shield, or if it already has Divine Shield, +1 attack, and we get 3 uses out of this. Or the Life-Saving Aura, which can give us a bunch of sunscreens to double up. We can also use the new Mixologist to get a 1-mana cost potion to double that up, or we can use Grifta to get a 1-mana cost amulet, so we can double those up. And besides our buffs and potions, we have a ton of damage that can go face for double damage, like the O-Manager or the Hammer of Wrath, as well as the Holy Glow Sticks, which deals 4 damage and costs 1 if we've played a holy spell this turn. So for 1 mana, it can deal 8 damage. So yeah, this deck can do just an absolute ton of damage on that Linessa turn. And to help set up this combo even easier, we are using a Holy Cowboy that discounts your next holy spell by 2, and the new Sea Shield Shill Rogue card, which discounts your next non-rogue card by 2, which is all of our Paladin cards. And to help set up this combo super consistently, we are using the new Grill Master, where it has a Battle Cry to draw your lowest cost card, so like our buffs, and a Death Rattle to draw your highest cost card, so our Linessa. Yeah, this deck looks really scary. It can potentially OTK by turn 5 or 6. Our next deck up is going to be Warlock with this Death Rattle Warlock. So this one uses the Death Knight Tourist for Warlock, Summoner Dark Morrow, where when this is on the field, your Death Rattles trigger twice, and anytime you play a Death Rattle, it instantly dies. So some of the Death Rattles that we're going to be using is the good old Nerubian Egg, as well as the Terrible Chef, which summons another Nerubian Egg. And then we have the new Sacrificial Imp, which is a 1/6 minion that when it dies, you get a big 6/6 taunt. We're also running a new Death Knight Death Rattle, the Brittlebone Buccaneer, which is a 2/2 rush with Death Rattle to summon a 1/1 with Reborn. And to help break our Death Rattles like all of our eggs, we have a couple of Chaotic Consumptions to kill our Death Rattle and kill an enemy minion, as well as the new Eat the Imp, where we get to destroy one of our own minions to draw 3 cards. And we're also running a Ravenous Kraken as well. And because so many of our minions are dying, we can take advantage of that as well, using some new Death Knight cards like the Corpsicle, where you're going to deal 3 damage and spend 3 corpses to get it back again at the end of your turn. We also have the Horizon's Edge Location, which deals 3 damage randomly split among enemies, and you get to reopen and reuse it every single time one of your minions dies. So as you're eating your own Death Rattles, you can do a lot of damage with this location at the same time. And to help make our Death Rattles and our minions even more lethal, we are using the new Death Knight legendary Eliza, where when she dies, she gives all your minions +1 attack permanently for the rest of the game. And it's especially nuts if we can double that Death Rattle up with the Dark Morrow, or to use like a Ghoul's Night right afterwards, where you're going to summon 5 1/1 ghouls that attack random enemies. And to help set up our Death Rattle combos even easier, we are using the new Fellfire Bonfire, which deals 4 damage. And if it kills a minion, your next Death Rattle costs 3 less. This deck has so much awesome synergy. I'm really looking forward to this one. Coming in at number 5, we have this Pain Pirate Demon Hunter. This one features the Priest Tourist and Demon Hunter, Arana Thrillseeker, where she says that any damage that your hero takes on your turn is redirected to a random enemy. So naturally, we love taking damage on our turn and using that against our enemy. And we can do that with a couple of new Priest cards, like Acupuncture, where it deals 4 damage to both heroes for 1 mana. Or if you use this with Arana on the field, it can do 8 damage. We also have the new Brain Masseuse for Priest, which is a 1 mana 2/4 minion. Whenever it takes damage, we take damage. And we also have the new Hot Coals, where it's a 3 mana spell that deals 2 damage to all enemies, or if we took damage this turn, does 3 damage to all enemies. But besides being aggressive with these Priest Pain cards, we are also running a very aggressive pirate package. So we have the new Patches the Pilot, which summons a bunch of parachutes into your deck that when drawn summons 1/1 chargers. And then we also have the new Sigil of Skydiving, where at the start of your next turn, summon 3 1/1 pirate chargers. And we can get even more of these little pirate chargers with the new location, Dangerous Cliffside, and whenever we attack, we get to reopen this location for even more little charge pirates. And then when we have a bunch of these little charge pirates on the board, we can take advantage of them even further, like with the Adrenaline Fiend, so whenever one of them attacks, our hero also gains attack, or the Coconut Cannoneer, so whenever an adjacent minion attacks, it deals 1 damage to a random enemy, or the Hosen Roughhouser, so whenever one of our pirates attacks, it gets a +1/+1 buff. Yeah, this deck looks to be super aggressive, so watch out for this one. If you blink, you're dead. Our 6th deck is going to be Shaman with this Evolved Shaman. And this one uses the Demon Hunter Tourist for Shaman, Carefree Cookie, which is a 3 mana minion that whenever one of your minions dies while this is on the field, instead it gets transformed into a minion that costs 1 more. So we're going to be going all in on these evolve effects by summoning a lot of little minions to die for them to get evolved, like with the Sigil of Skydiving to summon 3 1/1 pirates with charge at the start of your next turn, or the Patches the Pilot to summon a bunch of pirate chargers in your deck that get summoned when drawn. And another really cool play we can do is we can help protect Cookie with the Pop-Up Book, which summons a couple of 0/1 taunts. So if our opponents can't deal with the Cookie from hand, if they want to kill the Cookie, they have to get through the taunts first, which means they have to evolve our minions. We can also set up some really powerful mid-game evolve turns as well, using the Wave of Nostalgia, or transform every minion on the board into a random legendary of the past. And we can flood the board super easily right before we're about to evolve, using some 0-cost minions like the Snowflipper Penguin or Ancient Totem, or with the help of Gorgon Zormu, which gives us a 2-cost cheese spell in hand to summon 3 minions, and upgrades to summon higher cost minions every turn that this cheese is in your hand. And we can even guarantee drawing the Wave of Nostalgia with the Hagatha the Fabled, which draws 2 spells that cost 5 5 or more. And since we're only running 2 Wave of Nostalgias and 1 Wish Upon a Star, we're guaranteed at least 1 wave from the Hagatha. Evolved decks like this are always hit or miss based on if you're lucky with the evolves, but they're always a ton of fun, and this one looks to be pretty consistent as well. I hope you have a big appetite for this next deck, and that's going to be Big Warrior. So kind of like the Big Hunter, this one all focuses around the Rye Cleaver to cheat out really big minions from our hand. But Warrior gets to take a little bit of a different approach, because Warrior has the Druid Tourist, where it's a 3/3 taunt that at the end of the turn gets to eat a minion in the opponent's deck to gain +2/+2. But honestly, we don't really care too much about the effect. We just really want access to the Druid cards, because we can use Druid's Ramp, like Trail Mix, to gain 2 mana temporarily for the next turn, or New Heights to gain a mana crystal and raise your max mana by 3. We can ramp up to the Rye Cleaver as fast as possible to start getting those massive swing turns. So the big minions that we're going to be using in this deck to cheat out, similarly to the Big Hunter, we're going to be using the new Beached Whale, which is the 4/20 taunt beast, as well as the Monstrosity, which is the 9 mana 6/9 taunt elemental, which summons a minion at the end of your turn with stats equal to this. And then we get to cheat them both out of our deck with the Thunderbringer. And a few other big minions that we're going to be running is the new Draconic Delicacy, which is an 8 mana 6/6 dragon with rush and elusive, and it can only take 1 damage at a time. And we're running the good old 9 mana Zilliax with everything on it. Because all of our big minions are different minion types, we can draw them all with the All You Can Eat after we play the Rye Cleaver. We can squeeze them all into that 2 mana cost sandwich to summon them all out of our hand for free. And as our big minions and as our big taunts start dying, we can resurrect our 3 highest cost taunts with the new Druid spell Hydration Station. So not only do we get a ramp up to our big stuff really quickly with this deck, we just get wave after wave after wave of all these really huge minions. And I mean, come on, who doesn't love sandwiches? This next deck up is going to be Rogue with this Cutlass Rogue. This deck uses the Warlock Tourist for Rogue, Maestra Mask Merchant, which allows you to discover a hero card from the past. And honestly, we don't need to build around this card too much because these hero cards are really powerful by themselves. But most notably, we get access to the Warlock cards. And honestly, there's not many Warlock cards that Rogue can use in this set, but we are going to be using the new Health Drink, which has lifesteal and does 3 damage to a minion, and it has 3 uses. So this is perfect to use with the Spectral Cutlass weapon, where it's a 2/2, and every time you cast a spell from another class, it gets a durability. So this 1 Health Drink card can give 3 durability to the Cutlass. And not only can we use our own Health Drink card, but we can get some more drinks in hand using the Drink Server, where you get a random drink from another class. So it's very easy to keep our Cutlass going with these drinks. And since our Cutlass basically has infinite durability with all these drinks, we can buff up the attack like crazy using Deadly Poison or Valera's Gift for more Deadly Poison, and the Harmonic Hip Hop. So we just have endless damage and endless lifesteal with this weapon. And if the drinks weren't enough, we are using the new Petty Theft card, which gives us 2 1-cost spells from other classes. We can use those to easily keep our Cutlass going as well. And because these drinks make playing cards from other classes so easy, we can easily take advantage of the new card Snatch and Grab, which kills 2 random enemies and gets discounted for every card from another class that you've played. And it's very easy to activate the Treasure Hunter Eudora that gives you a side quest, and you need to play 3 cards from other classes to complete it, and then you get a fantastic treasure, which are some powerful cards like fill your whole board up with boombots or silence and destroy all enemy minions. Yeah, all thanks to the efficient drink cards, this Cutlass deck might be looking kind of unstoppable now. This next deck up is another big one, and that's Big Spell Druid. So this deck uses the new Mage Tourist for Druid, Mista Vista, which is a 5 mana minion. When you play him, any spell that you play for the next 3 turns will get all recast at once after the 3 turns is up. So with this deck, to really maximize that effect, we're going to be doing what Druid does best, and we're going to be ramping, using the new Trail Mix to gain temporary 2 mana for the next turn, and New Heights to gain a mana crystal and 3 maximum mana, as well as cards like Crystal Cluster to gain 3 mana, and Doomkin to steal mana, so we can get to our Mista Vista and our big spells as fast as possible. And once we play a Mista Vista, we can start jamming our big spells like the Tsunami, which is an 8 mana mage spell that summons 3/6 elementals that attack random enemies. We also have the Sleep Under the Stars. We're going to choose 3 times to draw 2 cards, gain 5 armor, and or replenish 3 mana. And we also have the new big Druid spell Hydration Station, which summons your 3 highest highest cost taunt minions. And if you notice, I only have one taunt minion, and that's the big Ziliax, because this is the Ziliax that has everything on it and Reborn. So when you play the first Ziliax and the Reborn one dies, it counts as 2 Ziliaxes dead for the hydration station. And then when those 2 die, we can get up to 3 more on the next hydration station. We can also guarantee having our Ziliax in hand thanks to the new Tortolin Traveler, which is a new 3-mana Druid minion that draws a taunt minion and discounts it by 2, which means we can get a 7-mana Ziliax right before our turn 8 hydration station. And then because we have access to Mage cards, we do get another really cool Mage legendary, and that's King Tide, where it makes both players' spells cost 5 until your next turn. So most of the time for our opponents, it makes their cheap spells cost more, but for us, it allows us to cheat out our big 8 and 7 mana cost spells for just 5 mana. Yeah, this deck looks like it's going to be so much fun, but definitely not for the opponent. Getting to the end here, our second to last deck, we're going to be bringing robots back again with this Automaton Priest. This one uses the Chillin' Vol'jin Hunter Tourist card, and he has a battle cry to swap the stats of 2 minions. But we don't care too much about this effect. We just want access to a few Hunter cards, because this deck is all built around, as the name suggests, the Astral Automaton. Little 1 mana 1/2 mech. Every single time you play him, all your automatons get bigger. So we can discover them out of our deck with the new Hunter card Bird Watching, where you can discover a minion and then give them +2/+1 everywhere. Or we can just summon them straight out of our deck using the new trusty Fishing Rod Hunter weapon, where every time you attack, you summon a 1-cost minion out of your deck. And we can also replay our automatons using the Pet Parrot, which is a 2-mana Hunter minion that replays the last 1-cost card that you've played. So thanks to a lot of these new Hunter cards, we can find tons of copies of these automatons so we can make them huge, in addition to all the other copy effects that we already had, like the Creation Protocol to get copies out of our deck, or the Power Word Synchronize to get more copies in our hand, or the Celestial Projectionist to get a temporary copy of one this turn, or the Zola for another copy, or the Pip for a lot more copies. Yeah, there's just so many ways of copying these robots in this deck to get them huge fast. And we also have one last cool new card in here from this expansion, and that's Serene Sooth Fancy, where you get 2 temporary copies of the top card of your deck, so you could potentially get 2 more copies of robots this way too. Who knew that pairing Hunter and Priest was the match we needed to make automatons work? But I did end up getting to play test this deck for the early access theory crafting event, and I ended up having a 100% win rate with it. So watch out, but automatons might be good now. And last but not least, we have Death Knight with this Spell School Death Knight. So this deck is all built around the Shaman Tourist for Death Knight buttons, where when you play him, he draws a spell of every spell school. So dipping into Shaman spells, we can get more spell schools in Death Knight, like with the Melted Magma Drink spell, where it's a fire spell that deals 1 damage to all enemies, and you get 3 uses out of it. We also have the Natural Talent for the Nature spell, where you get a random Naga and spell, and they cost 1 less. We have the Corpsicle card for a Frost spell, which is a new Death Knight spell that does 3 damage and spend 3 corpses to get it back at the end of your turn. We have Down with the Ship for a Shadow spell, as well as the Scourge for a Shadow spell too. And then we're also using the new Shaman spell Siren Song, which gives us 2 spells from spell schools we haven't played yet. And then when we have all these different spell schools in hand, we can take advantage of them all using the new Cabaret Headliner to discount a spell of every spell school in our hand by 2. So it makes all of our 2-cost spells 0 mana, and it helps sets up a 7-mana Scourge. And then after you've played all of our different spell schools, we can hit our opponent with the good old Wombo Combo Razzle Dazzler, where it summons a random 5-cost minion for every spell school we've played. So between the Razzle Dazzler and the Scourge, we can set up quite a few really big boards. And another really cool card we get to run is the Caress Cabaret Star, where it'll get 2 different upgraded effects based on which 2 spell schools it sees played first. And some of these effects that it can get are like deal 2 damage to all enemies, get +2/+2 and taunt. Yeah, all in all, it just gets a ton of value and is super versatile for a 5-mana cost card. I was kind of skeptical of this archetype at first, but after seeing how many boards it can create and how much lethality this deck has between all the plagues and the corpsicles, I think this deck has a lot of potential. Well, that's going to wrap up all the Theorycraft decks that I have for you ready to use on day 1 of the new Perils in Paradise expansion. I hope you enjoyed these decks, and if you did, or if you found any helpful, then let me know by leaving a like down below, and let me know now down below in the comment section, which deck was your favorite, or which deck are you most looking forward to playing for the new expansion. But I'll see you guys in Perils in Paradise, and stay funky.